SPL is an annual team tournament for the competitive singles community, and it stands for Smogon Premier League. In this massive team tournament, every single generation of OU is played from Gen 1 to 9, and each team will have a specialist for each generation on their teams. SPL usually brings out the best of the best in the singles community, and despite being kind of a controversial event sometimes because of its best of one format which not everybody loves, it is still a very fun celebration of every single generation in the whole series, and a time for the best players across all of these different formats to come together and face off. Most teams used in SPL are solid, meta teams, safe picks, with a high win rate. Since competing in SPL means a team is relying on you, you don't want to take too many crazy risks. And that makes it all the more special when you see a completely out of left field weird Pokemon choice in SPL. It really stands out. And sometimes there's more intelligence behind these crazy Pokemon choices than you would initially think. Let's take a look at some of the craziest Pokemon choices from the last couple of years of SPL. First up, we have a Generation 1 OU team from the player Hayburner, which has two very odd Pokemon choices on it, Nidoking and Poliwrath. To say that Nidoking is a strange choice might sound incorrect. I mean, Nidoking is a pretty solid Pokemon in later games, but in Gen 1 OU, this is not the case. In Gen 1, Nidoking is quite terrible, actually. This Pokemon is ranked in the PU tier, and this is not the height of Nidoking's career. Nidoking is having a lot of problems here. Mostly, it's poison typing. Poison is dreadful in Gen 1 for quite a few reasons. First of all, none of its defensive traits are that valuable. Fighting resistance is not very important because fighting moves basically don't exist here. Toxic immunity doesn't really matter. Toxic is not a commonly used move in Gen 1 OU. Resistance to poison itself is also meaningless because poison type attacks are scarcely used. So defensively, poison typing is providing you with basic nothing. Offensively, poison typing also isn't very good because there aren't any good poison type attacks in this game. And on top of all of that, you have a weakness to two of the most common attacking types in Gen 1, those being ground and psychic. Psychic type attacks are everywhere on Pokemon like Alakazam and Exeggutor, and ground type attacks are also everywhere on Pokemon like Tauros, Snorlax, and Rhydon. So there is no upside and all downside to being a poison type in this generation. It is very grim, very tragic. At least Nidoking's secondary typing is a very good one. Ground typing is great because it provides electric immunity. Electric is actually one of the more common attacking types in Gen 1. And on top of that, Earthquake with stab damage on it is very strong too offensively. But if you're going to run a ground type in this generation, Rhydon is a much more alluring choice with superior stats, a crucial normal resistance allowing it to match up pretty well against all of the common normal type attackers, and Rhydon doesn't suffer from all the drawbacks of poison typing because it's not a poison type. So why would an SPL player bring Nidoking to an important Gen 1 tournament game when it has seemingly so many disadvantages? It's a good question. And I'm sure there was a valid reason for this. I'm sure this was not just a completely random choice devoid of logic. Nidoking is not without any advantages at all. It does at least beat out Rhydon defensively in a couple minor ways. One of them is that Nidoking is only ×2 weak to water type attacks, whereas Rhydon is ×4 weak. So any water type attack will pretty much one-hit KO Rhydon, but Nidoking might be able to live a single water type attack, which could be relevant in the face of Starmie. You could survive a Surf from Starmie where Rhydon cannot. The other defensive advantage is that Nidoking is neutral to grass instead of being weak to grass ×4 like Rhydon is. So Nidoking is not threatened by options like Mega Drain or Razor Leaf from certain Pokemon, especially Victreebel and Venusaur who run Razor Leaf to hit Rhydon. Grass type attacks are not the most common thing in the world, but they are seen in Gen 1, so that has some value. The other advantage Nidoking has over Rhydon is a wider offensive move pool with quite a lot of good special attacks available to it actually, like Thunderbolt, Blizzard, and Fire Blast. Thunderbolt is pretty nice because you can survive a Surf from Starmie and strike back with a Thunderbolt. It won't one-hit them, but maybe if they're low health or paralyzed or something, they could be in danger to your Nidoking. Blizzard is a really great attack with high power, and it's more accurate in Gen 1 than in other games. And Fire Blast is also a way to spread a burn, while also being pretty nice offensive coverage. So Nidoking has some stuff going for it, and I have to imagine some of that factored into why it was chosen for this SPL game. But there was also Poliwrath on the team. Poliwrath is another pretty obscure pick in Gen 1. It is ranked in the NU tier, and Poliwrath is an unfortunate water fighting type. Fighting is another unfortunate type in Gen 1, suffering from a weakness to Psychic, which is a very common attacking type, while also providing little defensively. Rock resistance and bug resistance are not really relevant in the format, so that's not very good. On top of that, offensively, fighting is very limited. There are some okay fighting type attacks like low kick and submission, but they're honestly pretty terrible and difficult to justify using. So Poliwrath is similar to Nidoking, and running Nidoking and Poliwrath on the same team is kind of crazy work. Two psychic vulnerable off-meta Pokemon on the same team in an SPL set. It's certainly a bold choice, I'll give you that. Poliwrath does have a bit of merit to it though, because Poliwrath has a unique combination of options. Poliwrath has Hypnosis, which is a form of sleep setting, and sleep is very powerful in Gen 1. Since there's not as many anti-status mechanics. There's no heal bell or abilities like natural cure or electric terrain or anything to block sleep. So you could just put things to sleep very easily. Poliwrath also has Amnesia, which is a very powerful move in Gen 1 that raises your special stat by 2. The special stat is, of course, special attack and special defense combined into 1. And Poliwrath has a very good special attacking move pool, with options like Surf and Blizzard. So Poliwrath is actually quite a unique Pokemon with this combination of a sleep move and this Amnesia sweeping set. Compared to some other Amnesia sweepers like Slowbro, Poliwrath is also a bit faster, and that has some value to it too. Now, another thing that's crazy about Hayburner's team is that it is lacking something very important. It is a common sentiment in Gen 1 OU that you pretty much have to run the big three, those being Tauros, Chansey, and Snorlax. These are the three best Pokemon in the game, and the vast majority of all competitive teams have these three on them. But based on the revealed Pokemon in Hayburner's team, he's missing one of them. We don't know which one because there is one Pokeball unrevealed in this SPL battle, but it is either Chansey or Tauros that is missing here because only Snorlax was revealed on the team. I would probably guess that the missing Pokemon is Chansey, because Tauros would fit more with the very aggressive team Hayburner is running here. And Chansey is the member of the big three that is most commonly dropped if you do drop one. So this team from Hayburner is bold in many senses. You've got two off-meta choices, and you are also foregoing one of the most powerful meta Pokemon in the game, making your team seemingly even more weak to top-level teams. So let's take a look at how this oddball team managed to win in SPL. Let's take a look at the tapes, because I need evidence that this is a meritorious strategy and not some random nonsense. We have an Alakazam lead, threatening a Gengar lead on turn 1 with a super effective Psychic, forcing in the Executor from the enemy. It looks to be a trade there, Executor exploding against Alakazam, and in comes Nidoking, our hero. Gengar does not want to risk a Hypnosis miss and exits to Snorlax, allowing some Earthquake chip against that Snorlax. That's significant. That's big. We've got an awkward interaction where Snorlax is instantly woken from sleep on the first turn and then gone back to bed, as intended. And we are now in the same position as before with Executor and Alakazam in on each other, but Hayburner chooses to go to Snorlax, intelligently selecting Earthquake in case Gengar chooses to come in, and Gengar does indeed come in. Hypnosis is dodged as Gengar falls to outside pressures. And in comes, I would like to emphasize, in comes Haunter from Ban Manaphy's side. Haunter has hit the scene. That's pretty weird in its own right. The opponent's also running some wacky stuff. I think Haunter was kind of genius here because Gengar is down and there's no other ghost type in the game. So Hayburner decides to explode thinking it's completely safe. But no, surprise, Haunter hits the scene. The other ghost type that exists is worse Gengar, but it's going to do the trick at blocking your explosion. Gleeful Shadowy Jr. it's called. An outstanding Haunter nickname. I would like to give a lot of credit to Ban Manaphy, who is missing a lot of hypnoses, I will say. That's rough work for Ban Manaphy, but what are you going to do? In comes Nidoking on a Seismic Toss against a paralyzed Alakazam, and it's in prime position to select Earthquake repeatedly. Nidoking did good work here. It came in on Gengar and forced it out, as well as punishing a paralyzed Alakazam. And now we have the Frog on the field to finish off Snorlax. It has been paralyzed by a Tauros Thunderbolt of all things. This is one of the strangest, and now Poliwrath goes down to the birds. It's one of the strangest Gen 1 games I've ever seen in my life. But it would seem that with a simple explosion, Hayburner can trade with the final Tauros remaining and be victorious in this particular battle. So even though in this game, I think that you'd literally just slot in a Rhydon where Nidoking is and it would have done the same thing. It probably would have forced out the Gengar in the same way, punished the paralyzed Alakazam in the exact same way, and just clicked Earthquake. But it's interesting that in this scenario, Nidoking has at least equaled Rhydon, and we can imagine that, hey, maybe ban Manaphy runs a Starmie, and Nidoking gets a bit more pressure against the Starmie since it's not afraid of dying to Surf. So you can imagine a world where Nidoking is superior to Rhydon, perhaps, can't you? Poliwrath was mostly just along for the ride. I'm happy he was there, but sort of just came in and surfed a low health Snorlax and then clocked in for the day. That's okay though. Innovation in Gen 1 is usually subtle and small little moveset tweaks or something. It's a very restricted metagame with not a lot of options. So to see some audible picks like this, some bucking of trends in such an important tournament as SPL is very impressive and noteworthy in my opinion. So I would give some real respect to Hayburner for this bring and this impressive victory. Now this next Pokemon choice in SPL is absolutely inexplicable. It is an unsolved mystery. And the player responsible for this was Michael DeBest. You may have heard of this player. An incredible player who is perhaps the greatest random battles gamer to ever do it. If you look at just about any generation of random battle and take a look at the top of the leaderboard, his name will be somewhere there. If not number one, then very close. And to achieve that in so many generations of random battle is an incredible feat. It's a difficult format to play. In many ways, it's one of the most skillful formats because you can't control what your team is. You are given random variables to work with every single game. So the common denominator there is your fundamental Pokemon skill. And Michael DeBest is a high achiever in many random battles formats. On top of that, he's a VGC competitor and also plays various Smogon singles formats. A multi-talented gamer. And in this game, he competed in SPL in Generation 8 OU, and he brought the Pokemon Beware. You look at this team at a glance, it is a sort of unusual team, but the idea is clear. It's Psychic Terrain Hyper Offense, with Sinistea, who is often on Psychic Terrain teams. Volcarona makes a lot of sense as another Quibberdance sweeper appreciating the Psychic Terrain priority immunity. Alakazam and Espeon also make sense. These are Psychic type special attacking threats. But what is Beware doing there? Beware is feeling very out of place here. It's sticking out like a sore thumb. I suppose the pink color scheme makes it look like it fits with all these Psychic types, but I'm not sure. I mean, does Beware benefit from Psychic Terrain? It would seem that it actually suffers from it because Psychic moves are buffed, making it more vulnerable to super effective Psychic type damage. So what is Beware supposed to do? That's a very good question, folks. It is a normal fighting type, which is a dreadful type combination, frankly. That is not a recipe for success. Beware is extremely slow with a base speed of only 60, and its special defense is also incredibly lacking. The best thing Beware has going for it is the ability Fluffy. Not many Pokemon get this, and it is an incredible ability, actually. With Fluffy, your Pokemon will take halved damage from contact moves. The drawback of this is that they take double damage from fire moves, but the first effect is well worth that drawback, because contact moves are most physical moves in the game. Even though Beware's defense is only 80, with its massive HP of 120, and the ability Fluffy to enhance its bulk against the vast majority of physical moves, this can actually take physical hits extremely well. The problem is that even though you have this fantastic defensive ability, this is not really designed as a defensive Pokemon. It has no good healing move, any utility, options like pivoting. If this had, recover and U-turn, maybe knock off, maybe an entry hazard, it would be a bit uncharacteristic on it. But those kinds of tools would be very good alongside Fluffy to take advantage of the serious bulk it provides and get something out of it. But Beware just has mostly a physical attack focused move pool with options like Swords Dance and various offensive coverage on the physical side and bulk up as well. High horsepower, that raises some questions, doesn't it? So it's kind of a strange Pokemon that competitively has never been very functional. It's suffering from its low speed and vulnerability to so many different attacks. So why don't we take a look at how Michael DeBest used Beware in this game to get a bit more information, because I'm lost. I don't know why Beware is here, and I want to know more. And Michael DeBest is up against a very standard looking meta team for Gen 8 OU. Starts the game off very well with a simple Focus Blast KO against a Heatran, and in comes Beware to to take a hit from a katana. It takes minimal damage thanks to its ability Fluffy, and it is equipping an eject button. So you know how, folks, I said that this doesn't get U-turn to pivot out? Well, if you give it the eject button item, you do have a way to pivot out. Now this is kind of crazy, isn't it? Eject button is a consumable item that, upon getting hit, you will just switch out. It is used sometimes on regenerator Pokemon to make them a bit less passive and allow you to use their bulk to get a single pivot. It's very good on aggressive teams. So is that why Beware is being used here? Literally just because it has Fluffy, which is one of the best abilities in the game for taking physical hits. This means that Beware can come in on just about any physical hit in the whole game, tank it, and then pivot out to something. And that might not sound like very much, that's a single pivot, but on this team, getting a single pivot looks like it's really valuable, doesn't it? Because it's hyper offense. You're trying to win incredibly quickly. So a single pivot out to one of these threats in a timely manner, in this instance, is enabling a shell smash opportunity for Poltergeist. Beware has successfully flipped a disadvantageous position where a katana is threatening significant damage into an advantageous one where actually Beware took Peanuts from the Smart Strike and pivoted out. And from here, take a look at what happens. We have a shell smash with the Poltergeist in prime position. Weavile cannot hit you with Ice Shard, and Hyper Beam is clicked. Hyper Beam. So you have to recharge here. I can only... The scale shot miss is incredibly unfortunate, but it's enough to prompt a forfeit from the opponent, and I told you that this team is aiming to win quickly, and it's only turn 6 and it already won. And you might think, wait a second, Beware didn't even do anything, it didn't click a move. Folks, Beware did everything. Beware did everything here. Beware is the whole reason that this is a win. Because this single pivot allowed this Poltergeist in for free to get a shell smash, and then it was instantly over. It was instantly over. So yes, you've literally put Beware on the team because it has Fluffy. And even though it has no real way to take advantage of the bulk from Fluffy in most instances, on this team, with the support of an eject button, you have engineered a way for Fluffy to allow a safe pivot against just about any physical attacker in existence. A single time. And that is enough to run Beware on this team. I don't know what else it's running on this set. It's a great question. I would love to know. Maybe we'll never know. It's one of those unsolved mysteries that will never see the light of day, but maybe it didn't even have any moves on it. Maybe he just put tackle on it and the result would have been the same. And finally, we have a team that I've always been a bit fascinated by. This team from Dark Evian brought to Gen 5 SPL back in February 2024. And this team has multiple oddball picks on it. Jolteon is on here, and even though Jolteon has been good in previous generations and is technically ranked OU in Gen 5, it's a very outdated ranking, and you pretty much never see this thing ever. To run Jolteon here is a little bit strange, and the whole team just looks kind of odd for a Gen 5 team. There's no weather setter. It looks a bit like a weatherless offense team, but it also has a random Blastoise Rapid Spinner on it, which is interesting. Blastoise is here, and Blastoise is not the worst thing in the world in Gen 5 because it has Rain Dish, which is a rain synergy ability, granting extra chip healing in the rain, and this is a permanent rain metagame. On rain teams, it also has the benefit of Scald being boosted by rain, but Tentacruel is generally superior with its water poison typing. Blastoise does set itself apart by not being weak to Psychic or Ground, so that is a reason to use it, but it is very strange on this non-rain team. I'm talking about all the benefits of running it on a rain team, but this is not a rain team. This is a weatherless team from Dark Evian. So Blastoise is being used here as sort of a neutral rapid spinner that also benefits from an enemy rain matchup, and luckily for our protagonist here, what do you know? He's up against Politoed Rain. So that Blastoise is going to get Rain Dish activated. How fun is that? There's also a Mew, and Mew is not unheard of either. Even though it's a UU ranked Pokemon in Gen 5, you see it from time to time because of its vast move pool. It can run good hazard setting sets with Stealth Rock Taunt and a lot of filler coverage, since it can learn so many different attacks. But the Mew here is, I suppose it's the least strange part of the team. I also would like to add that this is before the Cloyster ban went through, but to be fair to this team, I mean, of all the Cloyster teams I've ever seen, this is the most unique. This is the most unique. Why don't we just take a look at how the game plays out? Leading with the Cloyster, try to go for an early victory. instead pivots out to Mew. I suppose if a Synchronize happens, your Politoed would get poisoned, wouldn't it? It's Nasty Plot Mew as well, which is, I feel like I never see that. Nasty Plot Mew. Just a straightforward special attacking Mew sweeper. Doing pretty good work so far, successfully thwarting the Politoed, and we've randomly crit a Ferrothorn, it would seem. Ferrothorn is also, Mew's neutral psychic typing is doing wonders, as these Pokemon are not able to threaten it that much. One more Power Whip and it will fall, but will you risk the life of Ferrothorn? No. Mew actually gets to survive another day. Synchronize is going to work as well, because this is before electric types are immune to paralysis. So the value out of that Mew was kind of incredible, wasn't it? Ferrothorn didn't even make any layers, and in comes Jolteon, who completely walls Thunderous Therian and runs Heal Bell. So this is actually kind of a cool set, the Jolteon. It's something that can switch in on Thunderous Therian. It's really fast, and it has Heal Bell on it to heal the status off of the Mew who just became statused to in turn status the enemy. Now a Gyarados is going to the moon with Dragon Dance, and it substitutes in the face of an Outrage, which is a great move because, of course, when Outrage ends, this Dragonite will be confused and have a 50% chance to hit itself, won't it? Now it's forced out to the Ferrothorn again. We've used Bounce, and Bounce is going to deal lethal damage to that Ferrothorn, forcing a switch out. And you even get the Parachance on Bounce. You don't see that too often, the Parachance on the Bounce. Substitutes there just to check what Excadrill is working with, and it's Rock Slide. So there's a good chance of full Para or Miss happening. It does indeed come to pass. It turns out to be like a weird, it's not really a Para spam team. It's just getting serious dividends off these Paras that have occurred naturally. You've also powered through a Ferrothorn somehow without it making a single layer. That is a feat. That is an absolute feat. Gyarados is gonna bounce against this. And even though that missed, it's kind of the same outcome. You forced out the Dragonite there and earned a KO on the Thunderous. Plus your chip healing significantly. You are going to get extreme speeded, but we're preserving Gyarados here, and we're going to Jirachi. It wasn't even extreme speed that came down, it was waterfall. This is a game. This is a game of Pokemon. This is where Blastoise, our hero, hits the scene. And Blastoise is walling this waterfall Dragonite, and it's healing up thanks to the enemy's rain. The enemy wishes it didn't set rain on the field now, because Blastoise is perfectly healthy, and it looks like it can wall that Dragonite all day. It's not even worried about an earthquake. And this Jolteon is in. It has Heal Bell to cure that Toxic, and it has Light Screen. Light Screen, which presumably is going to enable a Cloyster win condition, or even the Mew to take more. Yes, you survive a Scald, and Psychic KO. You've squeezed a little bit more value out of this damn Mew that is just the greatest Mew I have probably ever seen in Gen 5 OU. Incredible work. And now that the team is beyond repair, we're going to just Shell Smash with the Cloyster. And, I mean, Keldeo should stop this, but no, it's HP Grass. Remember Cloyster, folks? Remember this? Remember this guy? I mean, this was a wonderful battle of Pokemon, even though it contains a currently banned Pokemon in the form of Cloyster. I think that Dark Evian played this so beautifully with such a crazy team. There must have been a soul read on the counter-teaming end, because you've brought Blastoise against a rain matchup. Jolteon as well was destroying the Thunderous Therian. Everything just went perfectly for Dark Evian here, and it's one of those teams that looks completely bizarre, but against this opponent, it was just absolutely locking them out. This guy couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything against this. There was a bit of back and forth luck, I think. I can't recall exactly, but it felt like the matchup was very much in the favor of Dark Evian. And this is the beauty of competitive Pokemon, isn't it? This kind of thing. The brilliance of team building. So these are 3 examples of some of the craziest teams I've ever seen that worked wonders in SBL of all places. A high-level tournament where you don't want to take too many risks. These players did take risks. They went crazy mode, and it paid off spectacularly for them. What did you think of these games, folks? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.